Well, it's my first time here. He has such a unique style. I love it a lot. He's really funny. Give it up for Tesseract.
This is a very downbeat set. I had to put a dog down Monday, so I lost a child. And I have a good friend here tonight who I've known for decades, and so this set is for Carol. It's a very intimate set. The rest of you can listen in though. When I was growing up in the city, Carol, we had this toaster that had 2 slots and instructions on it that if you're only cooking 1 slice of toast, you had to use a certain slot on the toaster. And I lived in fear that I might do something wrong and what would happen. The toast would burn and the toaster itself would catch fire. I don't know. Looking back at it now, though, I see how rare that is, that there's any item in the house with that sort of attitude, that puts that sort of fear of God in a child. It's like I've never had a love seat, for instance, with instructions on it that if you're alone, you have to sit on a certain side of the love seat. Alone again? Well, then you don't sit on this cushion, you sit over there. You don't bother me till you can come home with a woman, you pussy. Something's been bothering me. I'm kind of a true crime buff, which you know. Fan of true crime. People are fine with all the mixed up imagery on miniature golf courses. On a miniature golf course, you may have to putt beneath an elephant, which is nonsensically next to something maybe like a windmill, which is inexplicably next to something like, let's say, a rocket ship. But people are fine with all the mixed up imagery as long as it's on a miniature golf course, which has me worried because historically, murderers have had trouble hiding dead bodies, as they should. But I'm thinking, as long as the murderer hid the body on a miniature golf course so it seemed to be an obstacle to a hole, I'm not sure anyone would register that as being out of place. I think the murder would be over state lines long gone before anyone in his hometown started getting annoyed that Hole 9 was attracting buzzards and rats. Every neighborhood I've ever lived in, I've lived all over the city of Rochester, there's always that one guy with the trophy wife. And every guy on that block is jealous of him. You know, she goes out to do work in the front yard, maybe weed the flower bed, and we're all staring at her, usually through the blinds in the living room. And we're envious of that husband. But I have to think, it can't be an ideal existence for that guy, because he knows so many other guys are sniffing around. He's got to stay on his wife's good side. Once in a while, she gives him an ultimatum, and he knows he's got to buckle under. Otherwise, he's worried when he goes off to work about what she might be getting into. Years ago, I went out with a woman who was pretty good looking, sort of entitled, but nice looking. And even though we were only on a first date, she pulled a little of that ultimatum shit. We were in a fairly nice restaurant. We'd just been served. And she says to me, and this is completely out of the blue, salt or pepper? And I say, or? Lady, if I look to you like the kind of guy who responds well to ultimatums, you've got another thing coming. I flip the table. Salt and pepper all day long. Salt and pepper. There's no or in my universe. When we were growing up, I don't know if it was just in our neighborhood or if this was a national thing, a lot of people were redoing their basements at that time, putting in carpeting in a bar in the basement, which, looking back at it, I don't get at all. In an actual bar, you can get loaded. You can get a little crocked, staring at people of the opposite sex, work up the courage to talk to them. But in your basement, as loaded as you get, as sexed up as you get, what release you had? Your only hope, really, is that the meter reader is going to come down to take a reading. When you're done reading that meter, how about a slow dance? And I'd like to end on this one. This one I wrote just a couple weeks ago, so it may go nowhere. But here we go. Here we go. I don't drink alcohol, and I don't do drugs, and I don't have much to do with caffeine. And every now and then I'll talk to someone, and they'll seem like me in that way. I'll sense something, sense that about them. And whether it's true or not, I was watching a clip of landscape painter Bob Ross online the other day, and I was thinking, he is like me. He was so into painting that he was almost reaching a personal nirvana, so into the work that I thought any drug would only get in the way of what this guy is doing right now. I don't know whether he did drugs or not, I don't know, but I sense that he would not need them. They would have no place between him and the canvas. Can you imagine Bob Ross on drugs, though? Specifically speed. Bob Ross, in his usual state of near meditation, could crank out a painting in somewhere under 10 minutes on speed. He'd be spitting these things out like color prints coming off a copier. Here's a mountainscape. Here's a seascape. Here's a forest grove. Here's a lake vista. Bob, slow down. We've got nowhere left in the house to store these paintings. Get rid of the stove. Get rid of the refrigerator. I can live on rain days. I'm fucking Bob Ross. I can live on rain days. I think, though, that Bob Ross may have missed his true calling, considering how quickly he could paint a landscape. I believe his true calling may have been wartime camouflage. Bob, your country needs you. What is it, General? Anything you ask. Bob, I can only ask this as the quickest landscape painter in the world. Here's what I want you to do. In a single night, I want you to paint the Kremlin to look exactly like the forested landscape behind it. So when the Russians wake up in the morning, they'll think the building has disappeared and they'll be demoralized. Can you do that? Absolutely, General, I can do that. No problem. Yes. But one question, I'm spitballing here, but do I have to remain completely true to the forested landscape as it is behind the Kremlin? Because General, I would love throw in a couple happy clouds. Thank you so much.
For Tesseract. Fun fact, Bob Ross was actually in the military. He was